there. All right.
Okay.
So thank you for agreeing to chat with me for a little bit. So you had mentioned that you never worked in the mill here, but both your parents did.
Yeah, my uncles and my first cousin both worked here until it closed, and then they went to work at the Burlington.
The Burlington factory?
The Burlington factory. And they worked at the one that's over off Earl Street around here. There was one Caramount Mills also. Some of my family worked there too.
And I'm sorry, I didn't even ask. Can you say and spell your name so that we have it?
My name is Annette, Annette. My maiden name is Tyson, Tyson, and my married name is Xavier, Xavier.
And so if both your parents worked in the mill here, does that mean that you're from Rocky Mount? You grew up
Yes,
here?
I was born in Rocky Mount.
Are you willing to say what year?
Yes, 1940.
All right.
So I'm 76 years old.
Wow. Do you remember what your parents did?
My uncle is the one that worked here. His name is Herman Lawrence. And I don't know what his exact job was here. I knew more about his job when he got to Burlington. But I know he didn't start at Burlington until they closed here. I think most of the men that worked here who could do something at Burlington went there. But I don't remember that much about Burlington, but about here we had a good time on the grounds when they had Family Day. I can remember that very well. We had sack races and barbecue and watermelon eating and bobbing for apples and all that kind of thing. And the kids used to compete against other family kids. We all lived in the same area, so we all knew each other, and our parents would be rooting for us. You know, my mother and my Aunt Minnie, Uncle Herman's wife was my mother's oldest sister, Minnie Lawrence. So.
Now, were these annual event? When did they happen?
Every year, during the summer. Every year, during the summer. I believe either the last of July or August, before we went back to school and before the fair came.
That's the important one to remember.
Yes, before the fair. And when we were very small, they used to give prizes. You know, it wasn't just that you competed in these fun and games, you got prizes for them. And so it was very competitive among us. And the men who worked here, they were rooting on the children of their families, you know, so it was really great.
What were some of the prizes?
Well, you got money, not a lot of money because it wasn't today's standard, but it was enough for us, you know, it made us feel good. And silver dollars was the big thing. You got silver dollars. And you got prizes that you could show off at school, you know. You could wear your little badges and things like that, you know, blue ribbons and stuff. That was a big deal to us.
So did a lot of the people that you went to school with have parents who worked here?
Yes, almost all of them. On the street behind me, in my block, there was only one family. But on Carolina Avenue, which is the street behind me, almost every man in that block worked, and some women, but mostly men, you know, worked for the mill.
Yeah, and so what street did you grow up on?
On Myrtle Avenue and Carolina Avenue and Park Avenue. That's where most of them, Woodland, all in that area. There was a tobacco factory over there in that area too. But most of the men in our community worked here at this mill.
So for Family Day, did they close the mill down for the day?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They did.
Just shut it down for a whole day.
There was no working that day. I can't remember which day of the week it was though. Probably a Saturday. Although the mill was open some Saturdays, I think it depended on the season, what was going on during the season.
Do you remember what the people in your family who worked at the mill, sort of what they thought of it? Do you remember overhearing them talking about it?
Oh, they liked it. They liked it. I never heard anybody complain about it. But during that day, there wasn't if you had a job, you had a job.
You were just happy to have a job.
Yeah, there wasn't, there weren't that many things you could do. But this area was, especially Rocky Mount, had a lot of textile and tobacco and not much cotton, but some. But so most of the work around here was, that kind of thing.
Some kind of.
Rocky Mount Mills, Carroll Mount Mills, and then Burlington.
Do you know if any of the other two mills in the area had like a reputation compared to Rocky Mount? Was there one that people preferred to work for, or?
I think this one.
Why?
Because that was the one everybody talked about. It wasn't just people from Rocky Mount, people from Wilson, Tarboro, Nashville worked here too. Yeah.
Well, do you have any memories related to the mill besides Family Day? Do you remember coming here other times?
Well, we came here like when we were bringing lunch or something like that, but children weren't allowed to do all that much, because it really wouldn't have been a safe place, for us to be. So we weren't, we were always down the river or something like that, but we didn't come unless our parents said it was okay. We were a little bit more obedient than the children are today.
So this might be a weird question, but you said sometimes you'd come and bring lunch. Do you remember what they would eat? What would you pack?
It would be whatever they were cooking that day, chicken or vegetables, when we would do it, it was mostly in the summertime because we weren't in school.
Yeah.
So we would bring whatever. The big meal when I was growing up was the noonday meal. So it would be pretty heavy. It would be pretty heavy. But the men were, there weren't cafeterias and things like that, during that time. So.
Yeah, so you said a lot of your family worked here right up until it closed in '96. What was it like in this area when the mill closed down?
Devastating. Devastating. Actually, it slowed down way before '96, because I believe Burlington started before '96. I'm positive that it did, and most of the workers went there to the different. I think Burlington also bought the one across the street, Carroll, and then they had the other plant off Earl Street, and I think that they had most of the workers way before '96.
So it was kind of not going downhill, but you said slowing down well before.
Slowing down. I don't think it was going downhill in the sense that it was falling apart. It's just that the industry was changing, and the kind of things that they were doing were being done elsewhere and at a different technology.
So what do you think of this whole project?
I believe it. I really, it is amazing. And I'm glad it's happening. And I hope it brings jobs to the area. That's the main thing, because I think the area's been depressed since the textiles and the cotton and the tobacco went down, and they had to be replaced by something, but there hasn't been much available. You know, the railroad is coming back, and that was a lot part of the transportation for this mill as well. You know, so
well,
I'm very pleased.
Good. So, you know, part of what we're doing interviews with folks like this for is, you know, the mill is going to have restaurants and shops and stuff like that, but we also want to make sure that there's a space there where people can go to learn about the history of the mill and the people who worked there. What would you like for sort of the takeaway to be? What's the message that you want to make sure would be conveyed in sort of a museum exhibit about the mill, or what do you want people to know about what it was like?
I would like people to appreciate it for what it was. That it was a way for men to earn a living and support their families, and that they were able to do that. Maybe not to today's standard, definitely not to today's standard, but they were able to provide and send children to college and that kind of thing. And I would like it to be appreciated for what it was. It was not all it could have been. It was segregated. Even the family days were separate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Were they held on separate days or just separate?
Separate days.
Wow.
So, but they did occur. And for what they were worth, you know. But no sugarcoating of it at all. Yes, they were separate, but I didn't get any sense of desperation in anybody. I don't remember an unhappy time, to tell you the truth.
It's pretty
I
good.
really don't. You know, we knew we weren't treated equally, but we were able to do what we needed to do to progress. Our parents were able to provide for their families, their children, and everybody had a sense of achieving to get further in life.
Yeah, that's good. So it was a real sort of solid, sustainable way to raise a family.
Yes, it was.
That's as much as you can ask for sometimes.
Well, during that time, yes, during that time. But hopefully, the sense of community that there was during that time would come back. Because that was there regardless.
Yeah, and that's something that I've heard a lot of people say.
Yeah, that sense of purpose, of wanting to be the best you could be, period, was there regardless of your condition, of your color of your skin. Even though the oppression was there, was unmistakably there.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you know this is one of the oldest mills in the country. It opened in 1818, before the Civil War, and it was actually run by enslaved labor for the bulk of its beginning. Then it became a predominantly white place, but then for the majority of the time before it closed, it was also predominantly African American. And that's something that we want to make sure that people know. You know, a lot of the times when you read about mill history, you don't see that story. So that's something that we're really trying to include.
You know, it's important to me that the pride of the black community be shown too, not just the depression. And to be able to work here was a prideful thing.
Do you remember hearing your parents and uncles or anything talk about any issues related to race here?
No, they wouldn't have talked about that with children. They just wouldn't have. But we all knew it was there. I don't think they were oppressed by it, not like we are today. Actually, we've gone backwards today. I think men were respected for what they could do and what they did do for themselves and their children, their families. And the respect factor, I don't think is what it needs to be.
Do you remember, do you ever remember them talking about their relationships with their supervisors or their boss or the administration here?
Not in a negative way. They would mention they were to do this or that they were to do that, and that they needed to get it done, but I don't remember any. Not from here.
Yeah, and again, since you were a kid, that may not have.
Yeah, they wouldn't have discussed that with me.
Yeah, do you know any people who worked with your parents or uncles who might still be alive who could talk about it? I know they're all pretty old at this point.
My uncle was 98 when he passed in 2012. And I know some others that were, maybe they're in their 80s, but they are not here. They've gone to live with their children somewhere. There are one or two still in Rocky Mount, though. But I don't know them, I just know of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of why we're trying to record these. We're trying to get it while we still can,
Hopefully, if you all are here other than today, hopefully others will just come by just to see what you're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's quite remarkable. I didn't know that the buildings were in good enough shape to be restored. Now, as blacks, we were not living in these houses around here. These were the caretakers or whatever they called them at the time. And the area that I told you about, Myrtle Avenue, and over in South Rocky Mount, which is called, or over on Happy Hill, as they call it.
Happy Hill?
That's where a lot of the workers lived. And I know that there are not many of them over there now. But that's where we lived. We didn't live in this area. So it's nice to see these homes being built and those that were here being restored. And the mill itself, because it's a part of our history too,
Yeah, and I've interviewed a couple people today who are like, I need to go back there and see that spinning room. Like, I have to see it. I know it's still there. So hopefully, we are going to come back and do more stuff like this, and we're still reaching out to people. But hopefully, especially once it's actually open and people can walk through and say, I remember that.
Yeah. There are probably some people my age or in their 60s who remember, because at that point they might have been at a stage where younger kids could come, like if they were in their teens, they could have come over.
Yeah. You mentioned that most of the black people in the mill lived further away. Do you remember how they got to work?
Well, they rode bicycles. My Uncle Herman at one time had a motorbike, but that was later on. And they had cars, they rode with each other, and the bus.
So there was a bus that went from there to the mill?
Yeah. But mostly they had rides and people picked them up, Carpooling. They wouldn't have called it carpooling, but that's what it was. Yeah. One person would pick up as many people as they could carry. And before that, because I think they started working here way before it was common for a lot of them to have cars. But they all had bicycles, and I still have 2 of those bicycles.
Oh, that they rode back then? Oh my goodness, do they still work?
I really don't know. They're in the shed, but I can't see why not. They need tires, but mechanically they're sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And well preserved too.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need a paint job or anything.
You held on to them well. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other particular memories or thoughts that you want to share?
No, because the thing, as I said, we did not get to come here that often, just on the special days, you know, or when somebody was getting an award or something like that.
What kind of awards would they get?
You know, employee awards, you know, or if the plant did something, you know, they would take pictures and it would be in the paper.
That's nice.
Yeah. It would be, you know, group pictures. This group did so and so, like that. That was a big deal for us. It really was. So.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to
more than
talk.
welcome.
Let me